My name's Rusty Sitton. I'm the Redneck Boat Guy. I build two-cylinder racing outboard boats. I build the props to go on them, and we also sail a 33-foot catamaran named See Y'all Later. Hope you enjoy the channel. Alright, hey, this is Rusty. I'm back in the garage. You know, Linda brought up a good point. You know, I'm talking about the finer details of aerodynamics and how a boat works and all that stuff. But what I hadn't really talked about is how a boat goes together, how you build a stick and frame race boat. So I wanted to do that right quick, you know, explain some of the parts of what a boat is and how it goes together. If you look across this way, this is called a rib. The ribs go across from side to side. The stringers go long ways, and normally a lot of boats build a little bit bigger, heavier stringer, and there's not as many of them. But what I did on this boat was I went to the extra effort of making them small and putting many of them in there, because it's like a bird's wing. I think you come out lighter that way, and you get a better bottom. The bottom doesn't move around as much, and you can get by with thinner wood because you got narrower spacing. And I was definitely going for light. You know, I wanted to be as light as I could. Yeah, the first thing you do is set your cockpit walls, and you put them in a jig, right? And normally they're just straight. As we talked about before, mine are not quite straight. I got some trick to it. But anyway, you set your cockpit walls, and then the first thing you do from there is you put your ribs in it. You set your ribs in the cockpit wall that goes across it. And that sets, you know, that sets your bottom. And then what you do, you see you got ribs and stringers, right? This is a stringer and it's a rib. All right, and once you get your ribs in, the next thing you do is put the stringers in. You start putting long ways. You go straight down the middle. You know, these are just straight. They go all the way to the front. This goes all the way to the front. And what I did is I did something a little bit different. What most people do is there's a big rib here and a big, or stringer rather, and bigger stringers here. Well, I went with a lot of little stringers because it reduces my span so that I can use thinner wood. You get your stringers in, and then once you get the stringers in, you start pulling them around the sides. You say, okay, well, I want the outside bottom to look something like, you know, that shape right there. This is the outside bottom right here. So, okay, I want the bottom to be this wide, right? So you set that one into the transom. Now, something I did on this boat that's a little bit different, cut a kerf down into this middle stringer to where this piece of plywood would fit down in it and make a strong back, so that the boat will be stronger with lighter weight. I don't know if you can see it all the way up there, but it goes all the way up, and it joins to the dashboard. We moved the dashboard up on this boat. It used to be quite higher and go all the way up to the top of the dash, but this one doesn't, since we moved the dashboard forward. Now, something we did on this boat is when we took the dashboard out, I said, okay, we want a lighter dashboard. So what we did was I made a honeycomb core with carbon fiber on both sides of it, and covered it with a mahogany veneer. So that dashboard is super, super, super light. I mean, it's incredibly light. So yeah, once you get your ribs in, your transom in, your stringers in, then you've got a basic form of a boat. You know, you've got your outside stringer that goes out and forms the bottom of the boat. And then you start putting bulkheads in. You see this bulkhead right here, right? Well, that shapes the boat. That gives you your top corner, your outside corner, and your bottom corner. So you build bulkheads in. Got a bulkhead at the dashboard. You got bulkheads throughout the boat. This one used to come up here, but we're changing this non-trip angle, so I'm going to redo that. But yeah, you got bulkheads in that shape the boat. So what I did was, with that bulkhead in there, I started running my outside corners. I put the outside corner in and ran that strip around there, just a strip of wood. You can see it right here. Just ran a little strip of wood around it, and that formed my outside. And I said, okay, well, let's see what the deck line needs to be like. So I joined it all up here together at the front and ran me a board up onto that bulkhead that I was talking about and moved it around till I got the shape of the outside that I wanted. And now you got a boat. All you do is put plywood, 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 and plywood. So that's the way a racing runabout is built. Hydros are built much the same, except there's a lot more to it because you're framing out sponsons up here, and it's quite a bit wider in the front. So there's quite a bit more to building a hydroplane than there is a runabout. A runabout, of course, flat bottom, no air traps. It's a bit harder to make one of them run and run right, but I wanted to back up a little bit because, like I say, I talked about the finer details of how I designed the body, but I didn't go back to the basics of how a boat goes together. And I did want to say something too, that I did something a little bit different here. Between the stringers and the ribs, I put a little thin piece of 1/8, and you can see it's broke over there. Russ had put his knee on it, but don't really need it. I'm gonna repair that area. The boat's got a few miles on it. It wasn't built for heavy duty. It was built really for straightaways. So anyway, what this does is, if you put a piece of plywood between your ribs and stringers, normally you just have one point of contact where you put a screw down where it goes from the rib to the stringer. That's it. You got a little bitty contact point. Well, putting this thin piece of wood in there, you've got contact all the way down these and all the way across them. So when you glue it down, it really makes a double bottom in here to give you a lot more strength in the bottom. And being this is going to be a wide bottom boat, a 35-inch wide bottom boat, I wanted to do that. And sure enough, it's held up well. It's really given the boat a lot of structural strength. It doesn't walk around, and I built it light. And that's one of the ways I did that, was putting that piece of 1/8 between the stringers and the ribs. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you about how a boat was built. You got your bulkheads, you got stringers and ribs, and just put plywood on it. Now, one of the things that we do is, once we get this top board on there, then we'll sand it, right? We'll get a long board and sand from this board to where it's flat. That this piece is flat and this piece is flat. You do a lot of sanding and shaping before you put the plywood on. And then, man, it's simple. Then you just put the plywood down, staple it in, glue it and staple it in. And what I like to do is I put the sides on first. I put the side wood on, and then I'll sand it off at the top, and then put the top wood on and let it hang over, and then we'll sand that off. And that's what these paint edges are for, is to cover that where the joint is, from edge to edge. But that's the way a racing runabout is built. And for those of you guys wanting to build one or design one, it's not that big a deal. You just put little pieces of wood together, sand them fair, and put plywood on it. Yeah, that's all there is to it, to building a boat. Hey, you just get out there and do it, man. Make your own design, put your little Yamato outboard on it, and come race with us out at the NBRA. We love having new people, and there's a lot of guidance out there. There's a lot of good people that'll help you out, get you set up and going. So, yeah, come check us out, man. I think you'll enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Thank you for watching the video.